The ship moved slowly through the darkness of space. It was the year 2247, and humanity had finally built a vessel that could travel faster than light. The S-Pioneer carried 50 crew members and one very nervous ambassador, Park. Tai-Ho stood near the window of his small cabin. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. For 30 years, he had worked as a diplomat. He had solved conflicts between nations. He had brought peace to places that knew only war. But this mission was different. This time, he would speak for all of humanity. Captain Kim Yuna's voice came through the speaker. "Ambassador, we will arrive at Nexus Prime in 10 minutes. Please come to the bridge." Tai-Ho took a deep breath. He looked at the small photograph on his desk. It showed his wife and daughter, smiling in the garden of their home in Busan. He whispered a small prayer and left the cabin. The bridge was busy. Officers moved between stations, checking systems and reading data. Yuna stood in the center, her arms crossed. She was younger than Tai-Ho, maybe 40 years old. Her face was hard, shaped by years of military service. But her eyes showed something else. Fear, perhaps, or excitement. "There it is," she said, pointing at the main screen. Tai-Ho looked and felt his heart stop for a moment. Nexus Prime was enormous. The space station stretched across the void like a metal flower, its petals reaching out in all directions. Thousands of ships moved around it, entering and leaving through massive gates. Lights blinked everywhere, blue and gold and green. "It is beautiful," Tai-Ho said softly.
"Oh."
"It is dangerous," Yuna replied. "We know almost nothing about these aliens. We are walking into their home with empty hands. We have something more valuable than weapons, Captain. We have hope." Yuna did not answer. She did not believe in hope. The Pioneer docked at a port designated for new species. The term itself felt like an insult. They were treated like children visiting a museum for the first time. Guards in silver armor escorted them through long corridors. Other aliens stopped to stare. Some laughed. Others made sounds that Tai-Ho could not understand, but their meaning was clear. Mockery, disgust. One creature, tall and thin with 4 arms, pointed at the humans and spoke to its companion. The translation device in Tai-Ho's ear converted the words, "Look at them. So small, so fragile. How did they even survive on their planet?" Tai-Ho kept walking. He kept his face calm. Yuna's hand moved toward the weapon on her belt, but Tai-Ho shook his head slightly. "Not here, not now." The council chamber was a vast, circular room. 12 platforms rose from the floor, each holding representatives of a different species. At the highest platform sat High Chancellor Vorin. He was massive, his body covered in dark scales. His eyes were yellow and cold, like a snake watching a mouse. Tai-Ho walked to the center of the room. A spotlight fell on him, making him feel exposed and small. "You may speak," Vorin said. His voice echoed through the chamber. Tai-Ho bowed respectfully. "High Chancellor, honored members of the Galactic Council. I am Park Tai-Ho, Ambassador of Earth. I come in peace, representing 8 billion human beings. We wish to join your great community. We seek trade, knowledge, and friendship." Silence followed. Then, a strange sound. It took Tai-Ho a moment to realize it was laughter. Vorin leaned forward. "Friendship. You speak of friendship." He waved one massive hand and a holographic display appeared in the air. Images of Earth filled the room. Wars. Explosions. Suffering. This is your world. You have spent your entire existence killing each other. You destroy your own planet. You cannot even agree on basic matters among yourselves. And you want to join us? "We have made mistakes," Tai-Ho admitted. "But we have also learned. We have grown." You are children," another council member interrupted. This one was smaller, with pale blue skin and large black eyes. "Your species has existed for what? 200,000 years? We have governed this galaxy for 10,000 times that. You know nothing." "We are willing to learn," Tai-Ho said, keeping his voice steady. Varen's yellow eyes narrowed. "Learning requires intelligence. Tell me, human, how long do your kind live?" "About 80 years. Sometimes more. More laughter filled the chamber. Vorin smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. 80 years. I have clothing older than your entire civilization. How can creatures who live such short, meaningless lives contribute anything to our council? Taiho felt the anger rising in his chest. He forced it down. Our lives may be short, but they are not meaningless. We accomplish much because we know our time is limited. We enough. Vorin raised his hand. Your request for membership is denied. Your ships will be confined to Sector 47. You will pay tribute for the right to travel through our space. You will not develop weapons beyond your current level. You will submit to inspections at any time we choose. These are our terms. Taiho stared at the Chancellor. Those terms are not fair. Fair? Vorin laughed again. You are not in a position to discuss fairness. Accept these terms or your little planet will be quarantined completely. You will never leave your solar system again. Behind Taiho, Yuna's hands were shaking. Her face was red with rage, but she said nothing. She could not. Speaking would only make things worse. Taiho lowered his head. We accept. Good, you may leave. The walk back to the Pioneer was the longest of Taiho's life. No one spoke. The guards laughed at them openly now. One even spat at Yuna's feet. She kept walking, her eyes fixed straight ahead, but Taiho could see tears forming in the corners of her eyes. Not from sadness. From fury, when they returned to Earth, Taiho gave his report to the United Earth Assembly. He told them everything. The humiliation. The unfair terms. The contempt in Varan's eyes. The assembly members sat in stunned silence. Then, one by one, they began to speak. Some called for patience. Some called for acceptance. Others demanded action. Taiho raised his hand, and the room fell quiet. They do not see us as equals, he said, his voice calm but heavy. Not yet. They see us as insects. As entertainment. They believe we will accept whatever scraps they throw at us. He paused, looking at each face in the room. They are wrong. We will smile. We will obey their rules. We will be patient. And when the time comes, we will change their minds. One way or another, outside the assembly building, people gathered by the thousands. They had seen the footage. They had watched their ambassador bow before creatures who laughed at humanity. They did not shout or riot. They simply stood in silence, their faces hard, their fists clenched. Humanity had received its first lesson from the galaxy. It was a lesson they would never forget. 5 years passed. 5 years of humiliation. 5 years of pain. And 5 years of silent preparation. Dr. Beaksora had not slept properly in months. She lived in Prometheus Base, a secret research station hidden deep inside an asteroid. 300 scientists worked there, and none of their families knew where they were. They had given up everything for one purpose: to give humanity a fighting chance. Sora stood before a massive screen, studying the design of a new engine. Her team had taken apart a captured council probe and learned its secrets. Now they were building something better. Something faster. Something that would surprise the galaxy. Dr. Beak, a young assistant, called out. The news broadcast is starting. Sora turned to the smaller screen on the wall. The face of a news anchor appeared, his expression grim. Today marks another tragedy for humanity, the anchor said. A cargo ship carrying medical supplies to the colony on Mars Evan was destroyed by Council patrol forces. All 47 crew members are confirmed dead. The Council claims the ship violated inspection protocols. The screen showed images of the destroyed vessel, twisted metal floating in space, bodies drifting among the debris. Sora felt her stomach turn. She knew some of those crew members. Young men and women who had joined the space program to help others. Now, they were dead, killed for carrying medicine to sick colonists. The anchor continued. Council Arbiter Thesa released the following statement. The human vessel failed to stop for inspection. Standard protocols were followed. We regret any loss of life, but rules must be obeyed. Sora turned off the screen. Her hands were shaking. How many more? She whispered to herself. How many more have to die? On Earth, the news hit like a bomb. Lieutenant Choi Minho had been on that ship. He was 26 years old, newly married, with a baby on the way. His wife collapsed when she heard the news. His mother had to be taken to the hospital. In the cities, people gathered again. This time, they were not silent. They shouted in anger. They demanded justice. They burned images of Arbiter Thesa in the streets. The United Earth's Assembly held an emergency meeting. President Yoon Dae-sung sat at the head of the table, his face like stone. He was a former soldier, a man who had fought in 3 wars before becoming a politician. He understood violence. He understood sacrifice. And he understood that patience had limits. "The council calls this an accident," one minister said. "They say we should file a complaint through proper channels." Another minister slammed his fist on the table. "They murdered 47 of our people for carrying medicine. There are no proper channels with these monsters." Dae-sung raised his hand. The room fell silent. "I received a message from Arbiter Thesa this morning," he said quietly. "She warned us that any aggressive response would result in humanity's complete destruction. She said our species would be erased from the galaxy." The ministers looked at each other. Fear showed on their faces. "What do we do?" someone asked. Dae-sung stood up slowly. He walked to the window and looked out at the city below. Millions of people lived there, families, children, dreams. All of it could end if he made the wrong choice. "We smile," he said finally. "We bow. We follow their rules," turned back to face the ministers. "And we prepare. Project Silent Thunder moves to full production. One want 200 ships ready within 3 years? Is that possible?" a minister asked. Dae-sung's eyes were cold. "Make it possible." In the outer reaches of the solar system, far from council sensors, humanity began its secret work. Asteroid bases were carved out and hidden. Shipyards operated in complete darkness. Engineers worked double shifts, building vessels unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Dr. Sora led the weapons development team. Her creations were elegant and terrifying. Plasma cannons that could cut through council shields. Missiles that moved faster than their sensors could track. And something else, something she kept in a separate file, labeled Only Last Resort. One night, Sora received a visitor. President Dae-sung himself came to Prometheus Base, traveling in secret. "Show me," he said simply. Sora led him to the main hangar. There, floating in the darkness, was a ship. It was black as night, shaped like a blade, covered in angles that seemed to confuse the eye. "We call it the Reckoning," Sora said. "It can outrun any council vessel. Its weapons can destroy a battleship in a single volley. And it is invisible to every sensor we have captured." Dae-sung walked closer to the ship. He reached out and touched its cold surface. "How many can we build?" "With current resources, about 200 within 3 years. But sir, we need more time to test them properly." "We may not have more time." Dae-sung turned to face her. "Every day, they kill more of us. Every day, they remind us that we are nothing to them. Our people are angry, Doctor. Angry people make mistakes. We need to act before we lose control."
Ow.
Sora nodded slowly. "Then we will be ready." Ow. 3 years passed. The council continued its cruelty. Human ships were seized regularly. Crews were held for months without explanation. Some never returned at all. Earth paid its tributes and smiled and bowed and said nothing. But in the shadows, the fleet grew. Arbiter Thesa visited Sector 47 often. She enjoyed watching the humans struggle. Their colonies were poor. Their ships were old. Their people looked defeated. One day, she received a report from her intelligence officers. There were rumors of unusual activity in the outer solar system. Mining operations that seemed too large. Energy signatures that did not match any known human technology. Thesa dismissed the report. "They are probably trying to build better mining equipment," she said with a laugh. "Let them dig in the dirt. It is all they are good for." She sent a message to Earth, just to remind them of their place. "I hope you have not forgotten our agreement. Any attempt to develop military technology will be met with immediate destruction. Your species exists only because we allow it. President Daesung read the message. He deleted it and went back to reviewing the latest production reports from Prometheus. Base. 198 ships completed. 2 more in final assembly soon, he thought. Very soon, in her laboratory, Dr. Sora watched the Reckoning glide out of the hangar on its final test flight. It moved like a ghost, silent and deadly. She thought of Lieutenant Minho, the young man who had been killed for carrying medicine. She thought of all the others who had died under Council cruelty. Let them keep underestimating us, she whispered. Let them laugh. When we are done, they will never laugh again. Outside the asteroid base, in the endless darkness of space, 198 ships waited in silence. They were hidden in craters, in caves, invisible to any sensor. Their crews trained every day, preparing for a war that the galaxy did not know was coming. Humanity had been pushed to the edge. Now it was ready to push back. The year was 2255. 8 years had passed since humanity first knelt before the Galactic Council. 8 years of suffering. 8 years of preparation. And now, the waiting was over. Admiral Lee Huna stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Silent Storm. She was 52 years old, with short gray hair and eyes that had seen too much death. She had joined the military at 18, fought in border conflicts, and risen through the ranks by being smarter and harder than everyone around her. Now, she commanded the most powerful secret fleet in human history. 200 ships, hidden across the outer solar system, crewed by men and women who had trained in darkness for years. They were ready. Admiral, her second-in-command, said, "We have received confirmation. Envoy Han has arrived at Nexus Prime." Huna nodded. "Begin final preparations. All ships to battle stations in 6 hours." On Nexus Prime, a young woman named Han Jisoo walked through the same corridors that Ambassador Park Taiho had walked 8 years ago. She was only 29, but her eyes held a wisdom beyond her years. She had been chosen for this mission because she could hide her emotions perfectly in her hands. She carried a single document. It was printed on paper, an old human tradition. The Council would not understand why humans still use paper. They did not need to understand. They only needed to receive it. The Council chamber was exactly as Taiho had described it. 12 platforms. 12 species. And at the highest point, High Chancellor Vorin, his yellow eyes, watching her approach. "Another human," Vorin said with a sigh. "What do you want this time? More complaints? More begging?" Jisoo bowed slightly. "High Chancellor, I bring a message from the United Earth Assembly. A message." Vorin leaned forward, amused. "Read it then. Entertain us." Jisoo opened the document. Her voice was clear and calm as she read the words that would change the galaxy forever. "To the Galactic Council and all its member species, for 10 years, humanity has endured your contempt. We have been mocked, robbed, murdered, and humiliated. We asked for fairness and received cruelty. We asked for respect and received laughter. We have tried every peaceful path. None have worked." Vorin's smile began to fade. Jisoo continued. "Therefore, as of this moment, the United Earth Assembly formally declares a state of war between humanity and the Galactic Council. We will no longer accept your terms. We will no longer bow to your authority. We will fight until we are destroyed or until justice is achieved." Then Vorin burst into laughter. The other council members joined him. The sound echoed off the walls like thunder. "War?" Vorin finally managed to speak through his laughter. "You declare war on us? With what army? With what ships? You have nothing. You are nothing." Jisoo simply smiled. She rolled up the document and placed it on the floor before her. "The message has been delivered," she said. "Do with it what you will." She turned and walked out of the chamber. Behind her, Vorin picked up the document and tore it in half. "Humans," he said to his fellow council members. "Always so dramatic. They will calm down in a few days when they remember how weak they are." He threw the pieces aside and called for the next matter of business. The declaration of war was forgotten within minutes. On Earth, President Yoon Dae-soon stood before cameras. His speech was broadcast to every human colony, every ship, every station. My fellow humans, he said, his voice heavy with emotion. For 10 years we have suffered in silence. We have buried our dead without justice. We have watched our children grow up in fear. We have accepted humiliation because we believed peace was possible. He paused, his eyes hardening. We were wrong. Peace is not given. It is taken. Respect is not requested. It is demanded. Today, we stop asking. Today, we take what is ours. He looked directly into the camera. To the Galactic Council, you laughed at our declaration. You threw it away like trash. You will regret that decision. To my people, prepare yourselves. We go to war not for conquest, but for survival. Not for revenge, but for justice. We will show the galaxy what humanity is capable of. In homes across Earth and its colonies, families watched in silence. Some cried. Some cheered. All understood that their lives would never be the same. Admiral Huna received the broadcast on her bridge. She stood and addressed her crew. You heard the President? The war has begun. Our first target is Arbiter Thesis patrol fleet. These are the same ships that murdered Lieutenant Choi Minho and 46 others. These are the same ships that have terrorized our people for years. Her voice dropped to a cold whisper. They will not survive this night. The fleet moved as one. 200 ships emerged from their hiding places, forming into attack groups. They traveled through routes that Council sensors could not detect. Using technology that Council scientists did not believe existed, Arbiter Thesa was having dinner when her sensors screamed. She dropped her food and ran to the command center. What she saw made her blood freeze. Human ships. Dozens of them. No, hundreds. Appearing from nowhere, surrounding her fleet like wolves around sheep. Impossible, she whispered. This is impossible, her communications officer shouted. Admiral, they are hailing us. On screen, Admiral Huna's face appeared. She looked calm, almost peaceful. Arbiter Thesa, Huna said, You killed 47 of our people for carrying medicine. You have spent years tormenting our ships, our colonies, our families. Do you remember Lieutenant Choi Minho? He was 26 years old. His wife was pregnant with their first child. Thessa's mouth opened, but no words came out. I want you to know his name, Huna continued. I want you to remember it in the few minutes you have left. Choi Minho, say it. You cannot do this, Thesa finally managed. The Council will destroy your entire species, Huna smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. The Council does not know we exist. They threw away our declaration without reading it. By the time they understand what is happening, it will be too late. She leaned forward. You have 30 seconds to surrender. I suggest you use them wisely. Thesa looked at her tactical display. Her fleet had 20 ships. The humans had over 50 in this attack group alone. Their weapons were already locked on. She thought about fighting. She thought about dying with honor. Then she thought about all the things she had done to the humans over the years. The ships she had destroyed. The people she had killed. The lives she had ruined for her own amusement. I surrender, she said, her voice barely a whisper. Huna's expression did not change. Surrender denied. The screen went dark. Thesa screamed for her crew to raise shields, to return fire, to do something. But it was already over. The battle lasted 11 minutes. Every single Council ship was destroyed. There were no survivors. On the bridge of the Silent Storm, Admiral Huna watched the last enemy vessel explode. She felt no joy, only cold satisfaction. Send a message to all human colonies, she ordered. The first battle is won. The war has begun. Across the galaxy, humanity celebrated. But they knew this was only the beginning. The Council had thousands of ships. They controlled hundreds of star systems. Defeating them would take years of blood and sacrifice. But for the first time in 10 years, humanity had hope. Real hope. They had proven that they could fight back. They had shown that the mighty Galactic Council could bleed, and they were just getting started. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. Within 6 months of the first battle, humanity had won 37 engagements and lost only 4. Council fleets that had dominated space for thousands of years crumbled against human tactics they could not understand. High Chancellor Vorin stood in his private chamber, staring at a holographic map of the galaxy. Red lights marked human victories. There were so many red lights now. Too many. How is this possible? He whispered to himself. They are insects. They are children. How are they defeating us? The answer was simple, but Vorin could not see it. The Council had grown lazy over 10,000 years of dominance. Their tactics had not changed in centuries. Their soldiers had never faced a real threat. They fought according to ancient rules that everyone in the galaxy followed. Humanity did not follow those rules. Commander Shin Yunji led the Ghost Division, a special forces unit that operated behind enemy lines. She was 34 years old, small and quiet, with eyes that missed nothing. Before the war, she had been a police detective. Now, she was the most feared human in the galaxy. Her team had just completed another mission. They had infiltrated a council supply station and destroyed 3 months' worth of fuel and ammunition. No one had seen them enter. No one had seen them leave. By the time the council realized what had happened, the Ghost Division was already planning their next attack. Good work, Admiral Huna said, through the communication screen. The Council's third fleet is stranded without fuel. They will be easy targets. Yunji nodded. What is our next assignment? The Central Military Command Station. We need to take out their coordination center. Without it, their fleets will not be able to communicate properly. Yunji's eyes widened slightly. The command station was located deep in Council territory, protected by hundreds of ships and thousands of soldiers. It was supposed to be impossible to reach. Can it be done? Huna asked. Yunji thought for a moment. Then she smiled. Give me 20 soldiers in 3 days. It will be done. While the Ghost Division prepared for their mission, Dr. Beaksora worked on something far more dangerous. She stood in her laboratory looking at a small device on the table before her. It was no bigger than a football, but it contained enough power to destroy a star. The Nova Pulse. Humanity's weapon of last resort? Are you sure about this? Her assistant asked nervously. If this gets out of control, it could kill billions. That is exactly why we built it, Sora replied. Not to use it, but to make sure the Council knows we can. This weapon is not meant to win wars. It is meant to end them. She carefully placed the device in a secure container. Prepare a full report for the President. He needs to know that it is ready. On Nexus Prime, Vorin called an emergency meeting of the Council. The 12 species gathered, their faces showing various expressions of fear and anger. We must combine our forces, Vorin demanded. Every ship, every soldier, every resource. We will crush these humans with overwhelming power. Our forces. One of the council members, a thin creature with silver skin, spoke up. You mean your forces, Chancellor? My people have lost enough ships already. We are considering withdrawal from the conflict. Withdrawal? Varen's scales darkened with rage. You would abandon the council? The council promised protection. The council promised stability. Where is that protection now? The silver creature gestured at the war map. Humans destroy our fleets like they are toys. They appear from nowhere and vanish before we can respond. They hacked into our communication networks and broadcast footage of every terrible thing we did to them. My people are seeing those images. They are starting to ask questions, another council member spoke. My people are asking questions too. Why did we treat the humans so badly? Why did we laugh at their ambassador? Why did we kill their ships for minor violations? We created this enemy, Chancellor. We pushed them until they had no choice but to fight. Vorin slammed his fist on his platform. They are primitives. They live 80 years and think they can challenge us. We have ruled this galaxy for millennia, and perhaps that is the problem, the silver creature said quietly. We became so confident in our power that we forgot what it means to be challenged. The humans have not forgotten. They fight like every battle is their last. They sacrifice themselves without hesitation. They are not primitives, Chancellor. They are survivors. The meeting ended without agreement. The Council, which had stood united for 10,000 years, was beginning to crack. 3 days later, Commander Yoonji and her team reached the Central Military Command Station. They had traveled in a stolen Council cargo ship, hiding among routine supply deliveries. No one checked the containers carefully. No one expected humans to be crazy enough to attempt such a mission. The assault was swift and brutal. Yoonji's team moved through the station like ghosts, disabling security systems and eliminating guards before they could sound alarms. Within 2 hours, they reached the main control room. "Set the charges," Yoonji ordered. "We have 4 minutes before their backup systems detect the intrusion." Her team worked quickly. Explosives were placed on critical systems. Data was downloaded from their computers. When everything was ready, Yoonji pressed the detonation trigger. The station did not explode. It simply stopped working. Every screen went dark. Every communication channel fell silent. The entire coordination network of the Council military collapsed in an instant. Across the galaxy, Council fleets lost contact with each other. Ships that had been preparing coordinated attacks suddenly found themselves alone. Commanders who had relied on central orders for their entire careers did not know what to do. Humanity's fleets struck hard during the chaos. Dozens of Council ships were destroyed in the confusion. Others surrendered when they realized help was not coming. When Vorin received news of the attack, he felt something he had not felt in centuries. True fear? "Find out what they are planning next," he ordered his intelligence officers. "I do not care how. Just find out." What they discovered made his fear turn to terror. The Nova Pulse. A weapon that could make stars unstable. A weapon that could destroy entire solar systems. They would not use it. One of his advisors said nervously, "They would kill billions. Even humans are not that cruel. Are they not?" Vorin remembered the footage the humans had broadcast. The cargo ship destroyed for carrying medicine. The colony starved by Council sanctions. The ambassador humiliated in this very chamber. We showed them cruelty. We taught them that mercy is weakness. What if they learned that lesson too well? He made a decision that hurt his pride more than anything in his long life. He sent a message to Earth requesting negotiations. President Daesung received the message while reviewing battle reports. He read it once, then read it again. Then he laughed. "Sir," his aide asked. "The Chancellor wants to negotiate," Daesung said. "After 10 years of spitting on us, after thousands of our people dead, he wants to talk. What should we tell him?" Daesung thought of his daughter. She had died 3 years ago, killed when a Council patrol destroyed her research vessel for being in restricted space.
Ow.
She had been studying planets. She had never hurt anyone. She was 23 years old. "Tell him this," Daesung said, his voice cold as ice. "You had 10 years to negotiate. Now you will listen." He turned to his military advisor. "How long until our fleet reaches Nexus Prime?" 72 hours, sir." Daesung nodded. "Inform Admiral Huna. The final battle begins now." The human fleet arrived at Nexus Prime on a cold morning. 163 ships, arranged in perfect formation, surrounded the great station. Admiral Huna stood on the bridge of the Silent Storm, watching the Council's last defense force scramble to meet them. "Admiral," her communications officer reported, "the Council has gathered every remaining loyal ship. We are counting approximately 200 vessels." Huna nodded. "They outnumber us. Good. It will make the victory more meaningful." Chancellor Vorin watched from his private chamber as the human fleet approached. He had ruled the galaxy for 800 years. He had crushed rebellions, conquered species, and built an empire that stretched across 1,000 star systems. Now he faced extinction at the hands of creatures he had dismissed as insects. "Chancellor," his military commander spoke through the screen, "we can still win this. Our combined fleet has more firepower. If we coordinate our attack properly." "Coordinate." Vorin laughed bitterly. "Our coordination center is destroyed. Our communication networks are compromised. Half our Council members are already negotiating secret surrenders with the humans." He shook his massive head. "No, Commander. This battle will decide everything. Win or lose, it ends today." The commander saluted, and the screen went dark. Admiral Huna gave the order to advance. The human fleet moved forward like a single organism, each ship knowing exactly where to be and when. They had trained for this moment for years. They had studied Council tactics until they knew them better than the Council did. They had built weapons specifically designed to counter Council defenses. The battle began with a wall of missiles. Human ships launched thousands of projectiles, overwhelming Council point defense systems. Explosions lit up the darkness of space like flowers blooming in fast motion. Council ships returned fire, but their shots seemed to pass through empty space. Human vessels dodged and weaved, moving in patterns that Council targeting computers could not predict. They were too fast, too unpredictable, too human. "This is impossible," one Council captain screamed into his communicator. "Their ships are everywhere." "Maintain formation," his superior ordered. "Focus fire on their flagship." 30 Council ships turned their weapons toward the silent storm. Beams of energy streaked across space, converging on a single point. Admiral Huna did not flinch. "Execute Maneuver 17." The silent storm dropped suddenly, falling below the incoming fire. At the same moment, 6 human destroyers appeared from behind a cloud of debris, their weapons already charging. The Council ships that had exposed themselves to attack? The silent storm died without ever seeing their killers. The battle raged for 4 hours. Council ships fell one after another. Human losses were heavy too, but every human that died took 3 or 4 enemies with them. They fought with a fury that shocked the Council forces. They did not retreat when damaged. They did not surrender when surrounded. They fought until they could not fight anymore. And then they rammed their broken ships into enemy vessels. By the 5th hour, it was over. The Council fleet was destroyed. Only a handful of ships escaped, running toward the edge of the galaxy with no destination in mind. Admiral Huna looked at her tactical display. She had lost 41 ships and over 3,000 crew members. Their names would be remembered forever. "Send a message to Nexus Prime," she ordered. "Inform High Chancellor Vorin that he has 72 hours to surrender unconditionally. If he refuses, we will destroy the station." Vorin received the message in his chamber. His scales had turned pale, almost white. He was alone now. His advisors had fled. His guards had abandoned their posts. Even his personal servants had disappeared. 72 hours, he whispered. Then he laughed, a hollow, broken sound. "I do not need 72 hours. He walked to his communication terminal and recorded his surrender. 2 days later, Ambassador Park Taeho returned to Nexus Prime. He was older now. His hair completely white, his face lined with years of stress and sorrow, but his eyes were clear and his voice was strong. He walked through the same corridors he had walked 10 years ago. This time, no one laughed at him. Aliens pressed against the walls, their heads bowed, afraid to meet his gaze. The Council chamber looked smaller than he remembered. The 12 platforms seemed less impressive, and the creatures standing on them seemed less mighty. Vorin knelt in the center of the room. He was not forced to kneel. He had chosen to. He understood that some gestures were necessary. Taeho stopped before the Chancellor. For a long moment, neither spoke. Ambassador Park Vorin finally said, his voice barely a whisper, "I remember you. I remember calling your species children. I remember laughing at your request for membership." "I remember too," Taeho replied. "How?" Vorin asked. The question he had asked 100 times since the war began. "How did you do this? We have existed for millions of years. You have existed for barely 200,000. How did you defeat us?" Taeho considered the question carefully before answering. "You saw our short lives as weakness," he said. "We saw them as urgency. Every generation, we start fresh. Every generation, we must learn and grow and achieve as much as possible before our time ends. We do not have the luxury of patience. We cannot wait 1,000 years for change. We must make change happen now." He looked around at the defeated Council members. He had millennia to grow complacent. You stopped innovating because you did not need to. You stopped fighting because no one challenged you. You stopped thinking because your old thoughts still worked. He turned back to Vorin. We never had that option. We have always been fighting against nature, against each other, against the limits of our own bodies and minds. Fighting is what we do. It is who we are. Vorin lowered his head. What are your terms? Taiho pulled out a document. Real paper, just like the declaration of war that Vorin had torn in half. The Galactic Council is dissolved. A new Galactic Assembly will be formed, where all species have equal voice. You will pay reparations to humanity for every death caused by Council actions. You will release all human prisoners. You will return all seized property. He paused. And you, personally, will stand trial for crimes against humanity. Vorin looked up sharply. Trial? I am a chancellor. I have ruled for 8 centuries. And now, you will answer for what you did during those centuries. Taiho's voice was calm but firm. We could execute you. Many of my people want that. But we are not you. We believe in justice, not revenge. You will have a fair trial. You will have a chance to defend yourself. That is more than you ever gave us. Vorin stared at the human for a long moment. Then, slowly he reached out and took the document. I accept. The signing ceremony was brief. One by one, the remaining council members added their marks to the surrender document. When it was done, Taiho rolled up the paper and placed it carefully in his coat. Ambassador Vorin said as Taiho turned to leave, if we had accepted your request for membership 10 years ago, if we had treated you as equals, would this war have happened? Taiho stopped. He thought of all the dead, the ships destroyed, the colonies burned, the families torn apart. He thought of Lieutenant Choi Minho and his 46 crew members. He thought of President Daesung's daughter. He thought of every human who had suffered under council cruelty.
Oh.
He said finally, we came in peace. We wanted only friendship and trade. We would have been your loyal partners for centuries. He looked back at Vorin with something almost like pity. You made us your enemy, Chancellor. That was your only mistake, and it cost you everything. He walked out of the chamber without another word. 5 years later, a statue was unveiled in the main plaza of New Nexus, the reformed capital of the Galactic Assembly. It depicted 47 figures standing together, looking up at the stars. At its base, an inscription read, in memory of the crew of the cargo ship Hope. They carried medicine to the sick. They were killed for their kindness. They will never be forgotten. Nearby, Ambassador Park Taiho stood with Admiral Huna, Dr. Sora, and Commander Yunji. They were all older now, marked by the war in different ways, but they had survived. Humanity had survived. Do you think it was worth it? Yunji asked quietly. All the death, all the destruction. Huna considered the question. Ask the children who will grow up free. Ask the colonists who no longer fear council patrols. Ask the species who finally have a voice in galactic affairs. She looked at the statue. Every one of those 47 people would say yes. Sora nodded. We did not choose this war. We did not want it. But when it came, we fought with everything we had. And we won. Not through cruelty, but through courage. Not through hatred, but through hope. Taiho said nothing. He simply looked at the stars above, the same stars that had seemed so threatening 10 years ago. Now they held promise, possibility, a future that humanity would help build. They had been mocked, abused, and nearly destroyed. They had been called primitives, insects, children. They had been pushed to the edge of extinction, and they had pushed back. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again.